Hi folks, Trassa here from Natural Back Health. I hope this finds you all well and enjoying the long weekend. I almost forgot about it until someone mentioned it to me yesterday. It's also the weekend that the clocks change, so an extra hour in bed. But it also means we're coming into winter time. I mean, we're already feeling, autumn is well and truly here. The days are shorter, the nights are longer, but after this weekend we're going to be feeling it that bit much more. And considering that, I felt it was a good time to talk about vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin. And that is the micronutrient that during spring and summer months, it's really important to get out and about outdoors with some skin exposed so you can get sun on your skin, and that really helps synthesize or make vitamin D in your body, which is really cool. It's a free nourishment from the sun. The sun is just helping you be healthier, which is very cool. But then as we come into autumn and winter, it is much harder to get it from the sun during this time of year. The majority of people around the world do get at least some vitamin D from the sunshine, but there are these limitations. The season, the time of day, the length of day, the use of sunscreen, all of these things can limit how much vitamin D that we get from sun exposure. So what else can we do? Where else do we get it from? Who's at risk of being particularly deficient or particularly low in vitamin D? How does it connect to our immune system? There's lots of these questions that go around at this time of year. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of insight into vitamin D and hopefully help you understand it a bit more. So first of all, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. You've probably heard of it in relation to bone health. So it is really important for bone health and teeth health, to keep your bones strong, your teeth strong. Definitely it's important for that. Vitamin D helps with calcium absorption from the gut, so you have that connection of vitamin D, calcium, strong bones. So that is important, but it has loads of other roles. It's involved in many different pathways, many different mechanisms in the body. For example, it's involved in cell growth. It's involved in reducing inflammation in the body. It's involved in neuromuscular functions. It's involved in immune functions. So it does a lot. And if you think about it, if you are low on that vitamin, that micronutrient, when your body is going about its business, doing its housework, repairing, cleaning out things, if it doesn't have that tool in its toolbox, it's going to be harder to carry out all the different mechanisms and pathways that it's involved in. So it is a really important one, and it's a necessary micronutrient to be at adequate levels. And some of us are at risk of having low levels. So there's a couple of different demographics that are at risk and need to be mindful about vitamin D. For those of you, for people that are housebound, if it's due to frailty, if it's due to being less abled, those of you that are in care homes, for people that have certain conditions, certain fat absorption conditions, or it's a symptom of the condition is a better way to put it. So if, as I said to you before, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So if you have difficulty absorbing fat in your gut, then it's going to make it harder for there to be good circulating levels of vitamin D. So conditions like cystic fibrosis, celiac disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, cystic fibrosis, did I say that one? Those conditions, it's harder for people with those conditions to absorb fat in their gut, so they have to be very mindful about vitamin D levels. Also, if you have darker skin, you may be prone to having lower levels of vitamin D. For people that wear a lot of clothes, they cover their skin when they are outdoors, and that's often due to religious reasons. They again have to be mindful of vitamin D levels. For mummies, breastfeeding mummies, they have to think about vitamin D levels also for breastfed babies, and that's a really, parents are really conscious of that, Usually their healthcare providers tell them about drops to give their infant. So that one is quite well known and spoken about with parents of new babies. And then also for older people, for people over 70, they can also be at risk at lower levels of vitamin D. So they're kind of the commonly known risk demographics for having lower levels of vitamin D. But then you can also be at risk of having low vitamin D levels due to certain lifestyle choices. So things like your work, okay, so it's not exactly a lifestyle choice, but looking at what's going on in your life. For example, are you a night shift worker? So imagine if you're a night shift worker and thinking about all through the winter, you might be sleeping during that small window of sunshine hours and outdoors time during the winter. And again, you know, the summertime, you're not getting much outdoors time either because you're sleeping during the day. What about somebody that is an office worker? You take the bus to work in the morning, you're in the office from 9 until lunchtime, give or take, then maybe you're in the gym at lunchtime, maybe you stay in the office and have your lunch, maybe you go to a cafe and you have your lunch, then you're working all the afternoon and, you know, until 5 or 6 o'clock, and then you get the bus home. When are you getting time outdoors in the sunshine? So you have to think about these things as well. What does your day look like? What does your life look like? Do you like getting outdoors? Do you make it your business to get outdoors and get sunshine during the spring and summer months? Not once a week, but several times a week. So you have to kind of look at yourself and your life, what's going on for you, and figure out where that places you. So given that we've talked about, okay, yeah, we get it in the spring and summer months, but it's winter now. Okay, we're coming into winter. What else can we do? Where else can we get vitamin D from? So you can get vitamin D from certain foods. Not that many foods though. So just to go through some of them, you can get it from oily fish. So salmon, sardines, mackerel. I love a bit of mackerel myself. Red meats, liver, egg yolks. Certain foods will be fortified with it, so you might be familiar with that milk. I think it's called super milk, and that is fortified with vitamin D amongst other stuff, I think, but that definitely rings a bell for one of the fortified foods that you can get in the shops. And then some breakfast cereals can be fortified with these things. You'll usually see it on the packet if they're fortified with vitamins. Also mushrooms have a certain level of vitamin D, and that's about it. There's not a huge amount that have vitamin D. And when you look at that list, again, when you think of lifestyle, if you're vegetarian or vegan, that list then is even smaller for you of dietary sources of vitamin D. So if you're vegetarian, you're vegan, and you look at your lifestyle and you think, say for example, you're a night shift worker and a vegan, then you're thinking to yourself, whoa, I'm not getting much sunshine, and from my diet, I'm really not getting a lot. So then you have to think, okay, what about supplementing? So there are loads of supplements out there on the market. Vitamin D as well, in health stores and that kind of thing. There's lots of different choices of vitamin D, and there's all different types of figures. There's 1,000, there's 2,500, there's lots of different figures, and really you have to, as I said, look at your own lifestyle. If you think, okay, I think I should supplement over the winter, looking at how my life is, looking at different risk factors, yeah, it will be a good idea for me to supplement. And it's very difficult to, when you're doing a video like this, you're speaking to everybody and nobody at the same time. So that's why it's important for you to use your best judgment and go, okay, I think I need to supplement over the winter, and then head down to the health store and figure out which one is going to be best for you, considering what's going on in your life. And then after that, there is testing. So if you're kind of thinking about like, okay, vitamin D lifestyle plan, what can I do? we know the foods, we know sunshine, but it's too late for sunshine now, we're into the winter months. Okay, I can look at the foods, I think about supplementing. But then if you're really thinking about, well, where do I stand? Maybe I should get a test. And you can get tests. You can get a test to see what your vitamin D levels are. And a lot of people don't realise this. So you can pop into your GP, discuss it with them, say, okay, this is why I think I'm, a little bit concerned about my vitamin D levels, and they can organise a test for you. You can also get a private test. Now, what I will say to you if you decide to get a private test is to be very mindful of the fact that you send in your sample and they send you a result back, and that's it. They're not going to give you a recommendation. That figure will just be either adequate, inadequate, insufficient, severely deficient, and that's it. They're not going to say, do this, take this amount of a supplement, or take this particular supplement. They're not going to say any of that. They just give you the figure. So it's important then, say you get the test result back and it says adequate. Okay, happy days, you're in the adequate range, keep doing what you're doing and keep the good work up, basically. But if you're inadequate or severely insufficient, or wherever you are that you need to push it up, that may be the case then that you say, okay, I go to my GP and I'll get their advice on where to start to build myself up and maintain that level. And there's two reasons on top of that to be mindful about how you start to build yourself up and how you start to maintain yourself. Is one, vitamin D supplements, not the sunshine vitamin D, but vitamin D supplements can interact with some prescribed medication. Also, high vitamin D levels in the body are toxic. So if you get a test result back and you're like, whoa, I'm really insufficient, and then you run down to the health shop and you're just like, okay, I'm going to buy all the vitamin D and I'm going to have loads, you need to be a bit more mindful than that, and you need to figure out, okay, what's going on for me? Maybe get some advice from a healthcare professional about where to start and how to build up, as I said. So it is important to remember that if you decide to go down the private test route, to remember that you are a unique individual and to use your best judgment. It's toxic in high levels, and B, it can interfere with some prescribed medications. So that is important to know. Okay, so we've talked about what vitamin D is, what it does in the body, all the different roles that it has in the body, who is more at risk for having low levels of vitamin D circulating, and then also, lifestyle choices, different things going on with you that mightn't be so obvious, and that could have, again, low levels of vitamin D. Then we talk about where we can get it, aside from sunshine. Supplements are another option, and then testing, that you can get tests for vitamin D and see where you're at. So then the other thing is in relation to vitamin D's role in the immune system. So I mentioned that in the beginning, that vitamin D has an important role in your immune system, your immune function. Considering that all that's going on with COVID-19, it's good to have a look at what is being spoken about, what research, if any, is out there connecting COVID-19 and vitamin D. And I had a little look around at different things that were going on, and I shared yesterday a report that was done in Trinity by the Irish Longitudinal Study on Aging, which is a big program of longitudinal study on Irish adults over age 50. So there's lots of stuff that they're doing, but they also released this report particularly on adults over 50 and COVID-19. I'm not going to get into all of it because we'd be here all day and all night. But I did share a PDF on that, so you can read into it if you wish. And it's helpful if you are watching this and you're over 50, or if you have loved ones and you're concerned about them, or you feel that they might find it interesting, to share it with them. But I am going to give you a quote from it that I thought was a pretty strong quote. Okay, so I'm quoting here: vitamin D is a potent immune modifying micronutrient, and if vitamin D status is sufficient, it could benefit vulnerable adults, in particular those over 70 years of age who are cocooning during the COVID-19 outbreak. So that is from the guys at Trinity in this longitudinal study on aging, and I think that is a pretty strong statement. I think that was really interesting. The whole report is really interesting and very insightful and thorough, so it is worth having a read of that. Then I was looking at some research that's coming out in relation to COVID-19, and it's important to remember that COVID-19 is a new infectious disease, and good quality research takes time. So there isn't that much research. I mean, day by day more is coming out, but it's just also new that good quality research isn't going to be there by the bucket load. There is loads of research on vitamin D in general, but specifically relating to COVID-19 and vitamin D, not so much, because you can't magic it up overnight. But I'm going to give you an example of one that I found. So this is an American study, and it was published last month, September 2020. And it was a retrospective study, so that means they looked back at information and took details from it to learn. And it was done on almost 200,000 people. So that is a fair amount of people. So we're kind of off to a good start with a big number of people. And it looked at the association, so that's an important word, an association between positive COVID-19 rates and vitamin D levels. And they found positive COVID-19, and I'm quoting here, is strongly and inversely associated with circulating vitamin D levels. So what does that mean when it's at home? So inversely related means, so this is vitamin D, this is COVID, and if it goes like this, higher COVID, lower vitamin D levels. Or if we went the other way, high vitamin D levels, lower COVID levels. Okay, so it's inversely related. And also, they say in the study, this relationship is consistent across ethnicity, gender and age, and a few other things, but basically saying that it's not like only happening in 20 to 30 year olds, or it's not only happening in females. It's consistent across different demographics or gender or all these kind of age, different how they're dividing up people. So that's one study that's out there, and it's on a big number of people, but it is only groundwork, so you have to use your best judgment when you're learning different research, reading about things that if one study comes out, again, it doesn't mean that you rush down and you buy every single bottle or stock of vitamin D. You have to be mindful about what's the details of the study, and definitely you can see it as positive and hopeful, and it's groundwork for more studies. So you won't see some of these things in national health bodies, maybe won't be talking about this, because national health bodies and associations and organisations need tons and tons of research, good research, repeatable research, that the results come out again and again and again before they make kind of public health advice on it. And that's just the way it is in relation to most things. Now, interestingly, when I say that, I was reading on the NHS website what was the details about vitamin D there. So if you're unfamiliar, the NHS is the British health body. And I thought it was pretty interesting what they said on their website, that first of all, aside from COVID-19 or anything like that, they recommend all citizens over 4 years of age supplement with 400 IU of vitamin D daily. So that was interesting, that just straight off the bat they recommend a supplement. Now, the other thing that was really interesting that they highlighted was the change in movement, the change in environment, the change in rhythm of the last 6 or 7 months because of COVID-19, that maybe because of cocooning and restrictions that you had less time outdoors and less time in the sun over spring and summer. So less time in the sun means less vitamin D, and they particularly highlight this fact that means that, you know, you really need to consider a supplement due to what's happened with COVID-19. So I thought that was really interesting that they highlighted that even more so. You know, it was a particular point of how things have been in the last couple of months. So that's pretty interesting. So yeah, we've gone through kind of a few different things there. Bit of science, bit of research. I'm going to put together a blog on this, put it on my website, and there'll be a bit more detail on that because usually I forget something when I'm doing a video. And I'll have all the links to those research and links to different things that I've mentioned. So if you want to read about something in particular, you'll have the links into that there. So yeah, hopefully that you found that interesting, and hopefully it's food for thought for you to think, okay, do I need to supplement? Where am I at? What do I want to do? Even thinking about family, loved ones, older members of your family. What do they need to do? What are their circumstance with vitamin D levels? It is an essential micronutrient. It helps our body function as best as it can, and that's what you want to be doing all the time, helping your body work at its full capacity. You know, all engines on, not kind of half on kind of working. You want to have all the engines on. So vitamin D is one of those things that really helps. Okay guys, as I said, I hope you find that useful. I'll put together a blog and I'll get all that together, and you can have a read of that in your own time. Other things that are happening in the coming weeks. So next weekend, October 31st, it's like, what date? October 31st, I'm going to be doing a full moon online retreat. So that's going to be a little bit of, the clocks are changing this weekend, so that's that reset. So next weekend you can have a reset of your mind and body, so that's going to be lovely. And then later in November the 17th, Tuesday, November 17th, I will be starting a 6-week series called Align and Connect. Again, this is online, and that's all about breath, body and spine, and building awareness and connection with your own body. So I'm really looking forward to starting that. And then, as you probably know, I have free relaxation sessions on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of the month at 9:30 in a private Facebook group, Natural Back Health Community. And I've been doing them since March, and they're all about just a little bit of time to unwind from the chaos, the stress. There's kind of a, you know, a low level stress the whole time with COVID, because we don't know whether we're coming or going, and it is tricky. So they are continuing until Christmas, 1st and 3rd Tuesday of the month, 9:30, and they are open to whoever, and they are beginner sessions as well. So if you come, give me a wave. Okay guys, take care.